la ciencia.
I don't think that's a relevant question.
Perfect.
I don't think so. This is about our lives. This is about American lives. And it should not be partisan. Science should not be partisan.
At some point, the daily drumbeat of depression and terror veers into panic porn. FDR said the only thing we have to fear is fear itself.
I think the question is,
News sources have to rein it in.
I'll be honest with you. I'm kind of retarded.
We need the news to calm down and treat us like adults.
Alright, I'm good.
Alright, cool. I think I should be good as well.
This dog is so weird. He will not eat on the bowl. He'll grab the food out of the bowl and walk to the carpet and eat over the carpet.
He's just trying to make more work for you.
I don't know why he does that shit. It's crazy as hell.
Alright, you ready?
Yeah.
Hey, what's going on, everybody, and thanks for joining me again. So today's a unique special episode. We're back to going over Zoom, but not because we're afraid of COVID and being in the same room as each other. We are connecting with someone across the country. I got my boy Slim here, and you got to check out his podcast, Sit Downs with Slim. His Instagram is on the page right here. Make sure you check it out. Slim, how we doing today, brother?
Pretty good, man. How you doing?
You know, I got to admit, I'm doing extra I was just telling Slim before this, it's crazy talking to the voice that I've been listening to in podcasts for so long. Podcasting is a very unique community because this is just somebody that I connected with through #podcasts on Instagram, and it's been one of the luckiest finds I've found because you got to check out the podcast. Like I said, it's just kind of like this. Good conversation with his good friends, sit down, have a cigar, have a drink, and bullshit about what's going on in the world. And so we're going to get a little taste of it today. How do you feel about that, brother?
Yeah, excellent.
So, again, make sure you check out his podcast. To start, I was telling Slim, it is wild today because just last week and on Friday, we were celebrating baseball coming back. I've never been more excited. I was watching baseball thinking, how is this? It felt foreign to me. It didn't even think like I deserved it. And then after the weekend, half of the Miami Marlins baseball team comes up with COVID, and they're done for the season. And now, the past 2 games, the Yankees have refused to play the Phillies in Philadelphia because that's where the Miami team contracted the disease, and so now it's all clogged up. The NBA's saying, it's because you didn't make a bubble. You should have made a bubble. The bubble they keep referring to is nobody being allowed to leave and only associate with people on the team or in the organization. And the NFL is saying, well, maybe we need to reconsider our reopening. Do we need to be stricter like the NBA with their bubble? And a lot of people are saying it's baseball's fault for their approach. So, Slim, I'm curious. I'm sitting there watching baseball, and it looks ridiculous with 1 or 2 stuffed animals in the crowd, nobody in sight, fans being played over the overhead speakers, and yet people are saying the MLB screwed up. So I'm curious, what are your thoughts? Do you think they could have approached it differently? And do you think this should set any standard for the NFL or the NBA?
So, I'm not a big baseball guy, but I've been keeping up with it a little bit because I'm just curious how the testing goes. And I've been watching basketball. I'm with you on that. It's weird as hell to watch a sport team and no crowd. Like, the WWE never stopped. That's what people ain't noticed. In the WWE, you can see how fake it is. Like, sports need crowds. So, the NBA, them being in that bubble, that was the most interesting thing in the world to me because I'm like, what's going to happen if somebody contracts it and they leave the bubble? Because it was reported that Lou Williams left and he said he had a family emergency. He went to Magic City to the strip club. Like, you can get the coronavirus in Magic City with them nasty strippers.
Did you see Johnny Manziel also said that strip club has the best chicken wings? He can attest for it.
Yeah, it's like, bro, you don't need chicken wings. tournament for a championship. That's crazy. But see, I was wondering, watching it, I was like, so they test every single person in there, because I've seen like even referees have masks on, the personal trainers have masks on. So I'm like, did they test them also? Did they go through those extreme lengths to test everyone? Because with a virus like this, it doesn't take much for someone to contract it. And an athlete, you don't want an athlete to get sick like that. And that's a contact sport.
Well, that's exactly it. I mean, here's the unfortunate thing, is the NFL is going to use the MLB as a scapegoat of, oh, well, this is a lot more dangerous than we expected, because the MLB, everybody's so separated from each other, they're distanced, and yet half the team contracted it. But again, why are people ignoring how the fact, you brought up the WWE, how that's been, they never stopped. You know who barely even skipped, well, you know, they maybe had a little stumble, was the UFC. They pretty much have been going throughout the entire quarantine. And the one thing that stood out to me, kind of like what you alluded to, was we're watching the Masvidal fight, and one of the main contenders of the fight, they showed him get his test, and this nurse shoved the swab literally up so far as his nose to like scratch his brain. You saw a grown, like, tough-ass man curl into a ball and like hold his face. So one, they may be low-key lobotomizing everyone and we don't even know it, but but look at the UFC. They're making people bleed all over each other, and they haven't had a single outbreak.
Man, I'm going to be honest with you. You asked me about the NFL. I really think, and I started thinking this when all the athletes started tweeting saying the NFL needs to come up with some guidelines. I think they're going to drop this ball. And I remember early in the year when this corona stuff first happened, I remember Donald Trump tweeting saying, no matter what happens, we're having a football season. So I said, I think they're going to rush this thing and they're going to ruin this NFL season.
You're probably right, though.
But I don't want everybody to be sick as hell because I want to watch football. That's selfish.
Yeah, you're 100% right. It's selfish, but also we're in a weird situation here. I mean, it is almost irrefutable that the media is getting caught around every corner lying and manipulating the situation here. And, you know, I was talking to my dad last night. You find out 17 players on the Marlins have COVID. This is the perfect opportunity for the media, for, I don't know, at least a social normalization, or I think if there was a journalist that was upfront and honest, this was a perfect opportunity to show the public that, yes, this is something ravaging the world, but also here's 17 players, and all they've got is the sniffles, right? Like, I don't know anybody that had COVID, but a friend that I went to school with in Pennsylvania, his friend's from New York, so it's probably pretty bad there. This dude is on a ventilator. He literally looked like Darth Vader. It was petrifying. I wouldn't wish it on my worst nightmare, on my worst enemy. So the question is that the most likely, you know, they say a lot of people are not symptomatic. Well, when you are symptomatic, is it likely you're going to be Darth Vader on a gurney? Or is it likely, and I think these baseball players would be a great opportunity to show, hey, these are healthy guys, and it's more likely than not, maybe I'm taking a leap here, but I think it's fair to assume the symptoms they're going to be associated with are going to be extremely minor. I don't see them dying and having this terrible reaction, but if they don't have a terrible reaction, I don't think we're going to see it. I don't think they're ever going to report, well, these players didn't have it bad, but it's anecdotal. And I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
Man, one of my best friends, he actually contracted the coronavirus maybe a month ago, and he got it from work. And he's one of those huge conspiracy theorists that was saying the coronavirus isn't real. So when he caught it, he was mad as hell. And symptoms wasn't too crazy, though. He only had it 2.5 days, and he fought through it. He said the worst thing he had was he had a really bad headache and real bad diarrhea. And his temperature was just wild. It was all over the place. So now Now he believes that every person in the world, because I said he's a conspiracy theorist, he believes every person in the world is going to contract the coronavirus, and the faster you get it, the faster you beat it, and you'll be okay. Everybody have the antibodies, and none of us are having it again. Then I also have a friend, Blue, he's been on my show multiple times.
Yep.
His mom is actually a medical assistant, and I kid you not, this is like straight from her mouth. She believes that all black males has the coronavirus and we don't have symptoms and we're the ones spreading them to other people.
Really? Now that's fascinating. Now,
There are also conspiracy theorists also.
well, you know what's funny is I don't know if it's the delusion of being trapped inside or maybe these baby eaters are getting caught. Who knows? But I've noticed the quarantine has turned, including myself, a lot of people into conspiracy theorists, dude. It pretty much, it helps when, you know, piles of bricks are being dropped off in front of courthouses, you know, buses of people, you know, white people in riot gear being dropped off at peaceful protests. Those things start making you question what's really going on. So I think this thing's turned everybody into it.
I'm not into conspiracy theories at all, but I'm going to be completely honest here. When all this protesting started happening, I was like, this corona stuff has to be over. You know what I'm saying? And I remember one of my friends went live, and I actually was at the beach. I probably shouldn't have been at the beach, but I was at the beach. And I clicked on his live, and I commented, and I said, hey, it feels good to be out there and be a part of something. I was joking, being an asshole. And I told him, I was like, are y'all being safe? Like, none of y'all have masks. This corona stuff has to be over with.
Well, again, we also need to consider, like, flu season is a season because it comes and goes with the strength of your immune system. Your immune system is stronger in the summer. So I was totally on the boat of if there's a baseball stadium open and people are willing to forego the safety of their home and take the chance of going to a baseball game, this is America, baby, let them. But then I also recognized that a second wave came when everybody went to the beach and everything, but we all associate it to people going to restaurants, and like you said, not 100 people standing on each other at a park.
Exactly. Man, let me ask you a question, though.
I'd love to hear it.
What do you think we need to do about this whole corona thing? Do you think we need to just go ahead and open everything up and let stuff just get out? Because our economy is suffering really bad.
You know, that's a great question, and here, what stinks is something like this has become so politicized. So, you know, just safe and open discourse like this is really suppressed. We drive ourselves into teams, and those teams are what drive our decisions. And so, for me, personally, trying to kind of transcend this team game going on, it's hard to do because I understand that I lean away from Democrat policies, so it comes off as like, well, I want everything open. But I also recognize that this is definitely detrimental to some people. I don't believe all. That's why I think there's a journalistic duty for them to be reporting 17 baseball players who I think it's more likely they'll be totally fine, like your friend who had 2 terrible days and was done. But they're not. They're going to milk it, and if they get fined, they're not going to tell us they were fine. It's still going to be construed as something terrible. So to kind of really flesh out my answer for you, there was a picture, and it showed in the 1920s, I think, I don't remember the year, but when the Spanish flu rid the world, over like 1.2 million people died from the Spanish flu. We're at 100,000 here in America, and so nowhere near the same, but the media wasn't construing this whole thing and turning it into a team game, so then it showed a picture of everybody at Woodstock, and we're talking millions of people piled on for multiple, you know, farm properties on top of each other, doing all knows what the Summer of Love was doing, and they were able to survive the Spanish flu. So unfortunately, I'm a utilitarian, and I kind of lean towards, I'm 26, and I know that this thing isn't going to kill me, and if it did, it will just trip me up for a couple days, I am missing out on an amazing summer. The concerts I wanted to go to are gone. The sports events, the parties, anything, it's all shut down. And selfishly, I want to enjoy them. I also know that I'd have to be careful because I come home to my parents. So it's this delicate balance, but I live in America, and I want to live in a country that lets you have the decision. So I don't like leaning on this politicized term of herd immunity, but also, you know, my grandmother who's in a nursing home. We got to be careful with her, but I'm not advocating for my grandma to go to a concert. I want to go to a concert. So it's one of these, like, I want to hear your opinion on it, because I think all of us have a different perspective, and if we allow each other to flush them out, there's a real middle ground that can be found.
So, I don't really have a crazy opinion on it. I think I said it on one of my podcasts like a couple weeks ago. I literally have no idea what's going on. Like, when it first happened, I didn't have no idea. Then I educated myself a little bit, and I thought I had an understanding. Now I'm completely lost. I'm like, where are we right now? And then to kind of piggyback off of what you were saying, I'm also lost with why did this whole coronavirus thing turn into a political issue? I have no idea how politics got involved with a coronavirus. And I guess because when we first started realizing it, we seen that Donald Trump had canceled the pandemic team or whatever. But I still don't understand why it's turned into this political issue where, let me just tell you a short story.
Yes.
I'm in Southern Illinois, I think 2 weekends ago, doing some film work. And we go into the Walmart, and I don't have a mask on because I'm not thinking. Only reason why I've been wearing my mask, I'm going to be honest, is because I don't want to be the asshole in public that doesn't have a mask. I hate wearing the mask. I can't breathe. You know what I'm saying? And you know, sometimes the breath be hot. I've been smoking cigars all day. My breath doesn't smell the most pleasant it should. I'm in Walmart. The lady stops me, and she's like giving me this briefing about a mask, and she keeps trying to give me the mask. I'm like, man, I got a mask in my pocket or whatever. Then I'm walking around with my friend and his girlfriend, and they're just talking about, they have to do that because a lot of conservatives, they're really going hard on this not wearing a mask thing. And I'm like, you know what? It's kind of stupid to make a virus a political issue when it's like, bruh, if you don't want to wear your mask, don't wear your mask. You know what I'm saying? And why is people angry because people don't want to wear the mask? It's just a mask. If you feel protected with your mask and gloves, just do that. Leave people alone. Let them make their choices.
Yeah, you made three really great points. The first one I want to address is how you're lost. You're lost with this information. Now, I think that's a result of, one, this being extremely new to, the high authorities, but also due to a real manufactured machine of disinformation. It's crazy, man. The fact, if you look at the time, we keep being told we need to lean on the World Health Organization and the CDC, but they can't make up their mind. They don't know what they want from you. The information they rely on that they release has changed throughout the timeline. So a layman like you or I can't keep up. First Fauci goes, masks don't do anything. Then the CDC says you touch anything and you're dead. And then literally at mid-June, the CDC comes out and says, we've come to find out that the coronavirus dies on surfaces within seconds. So it can't live on surfaces. Totally contradicting to what the narrative they started with and what they keep peddling. So it could be that we just keep learning about something we didn't know about, or maybe, quite possibly, more likely, there is a machine of disinformation trying to keep someone like you or I, who's trying to stay on top of this and learn, totally confused and in the dark. It's wild. And then when you ask, why was this politicized? I quote Obama, but this is every politician, no matter what side of the aisle. He said in an interview that crisis will always be seized for politics because it's the only way to get policy through that most normally would not have. And so in those types of situations, again, you see the Republicans, they tried getting a second $1,200 check through Congress, and Congress shut it down because they tried sneaking all this other stuff in with it. So these political games, it'll if we have a hurricane, if there's a volcano that busts through the middle of Oklahoma, it will always be turned into politics. That's why every school shooting becomes a gun issue. Everything is politicized because it is the best opportunity to get bills through that they not normally would have. And my last comment about your mask. Dude, I hate the masks too. I think the most appropriate way, so again, it's become politicized, like your friend said. Well, conservatives hate the mask. I have a friend that he's talking with us. He's like, I'm a restaurant owner. You need to wear a mask. And I'm a conservative. It's like, whoa, dude. The fact that you think us, your friends, are making decisions based on the party line we're on goes to show how two-dimensional our thought process has become. We go, my team says this is what I believe. So I'm not a fan of masks, but like you said, I'm a libertarian, man, in terms of it's a private company. If Lowe's wants to say, you enter my private property and enter my private business, we require shoes and a shirt and now a mask, that's fine. And then Home Depot can say, we don't require a mask, come to us. And then guess what? This is the fine points when capitalism reigns true. Everybody hates capitalism, but you get to vote with your dollar. I'm sorry, there's so much stuff on Netflix that has become politicized and is miserable. But if I'm sitting there watching it, I'm encouraging it. I am funding it. I am the eyeballs fueling its production. So people that spite watch, like Dave Chappelle. I love Dave Chappelle's last special. The amount of people that watched it in spite, it's like you're fueling it. If you don't like it, then don't watch it. So for me, it's the beauty of capitalism. If you don't want to make people in your house wear a mask, fantastic. If you own a business and you don't want them in your great. But if people don't feel safe in your business, they're not going to come. Or if they don't want to go in your business with a mask, they'll go to your competitor. And that's the beauty of America.
Yes. It's funny you brought up capitalism because I want to do an episode of one time. I got into this crazy debate with one of my friends that's a secret die-hard socialist. Like, he really believes that we're all just supposed to be happy. And I want to do this podcast so bad. I pissed him off so bad. I told him, I was like, whenever you talk about socialism, I always picture Beyonce in the middle of a cornfield picking corn, like singing off the top of her lungs. You know what I'm saying? It's like, why is Beyonce in a cornfield singing?
No, but for real. I want to get your opinion on this because this has been the most recent socialist type debate that I find myself in. A lot of my friends have been compelling for universal basic income. Now, if you note, I don't know if you saw in the bill that was proposed by Asiago Cortez and her band of misfits for universal basic income, it in the bill said those unwilling to work also got paid. So if you're going to give me $1,000 a month, $12,000 a year, so I can be creative outside of my job and be, more comfortable, how about instead of taking $40,000 a year for me in taxes, somebody who pays into the system as a functioning member of society, why don't you just take $12,000 less? I'll give you $38,000, and I'll keep that extra $12,000 to be as creative and capitalist, and spend my money as I wish. And so I want to get your opinion on universal basic income.
Honestly, I feel the same way about the income as I feel about healthcare. It's like, where's all this magical money coming from? And people will always call me the die-hard capitalist, but I can't help it. I grew up in America. That's all I pretty much know is the system that's in place, and I've been working my way around it from being poor to being middle class. You know what I'm saying? I just got to do best with the situation that's at hand. So I know how inflation works. If you give me $1,000 of free money, now $1,000 doesn't mean nothing. I'm back at square zero. You know what I'm saying? So I don't understand why everybody wants all this free money. It's like, you can't get around doing the work. And on top of that, like, me personally, this is just my personal opinion, I feel better working hard for something. Like, I don't want the government to give me a house and give me a car. Then what am I doing with my life after that?
Yeah, dude, your friend, when you were on the podcast with Blue, you guys both said it. One, I don't think a lot of these people realize they're going to have to give this money back. But also, when you have people getting paid more on unemployment than they were with their actual job, which is definitely going on with my close friends, their motivation to get back in the grind is totally gone. My buddy who got a job before, he had this great job downtown for 3 years, then he found a new position, quit his job, got the new position, a month and a half in, COVID hits, he's fired, and he's actually getting paid more on unemployment than he was from both of those jobs. So oh shucks, other positions aren't hiring because of COVID, and he sits back and chiefs and chills all week, and the motivation's gone.
So that's exactly why we talked about that subject, because I think the day before I recorded that podcast with Blue, I was talking to him about it because honestly, Blue makes a decent amount of money. He's a car salesman, so he works a lot, brings in a decent amount of money. So he's basically making the same amount of money he would be making working, but he's sitting around not doing nothing. And I told him, I said, okay, now you're bringing in $1,200 a week with 0 hours of work. It's really hurting you more than it's helping you, because now you have zero motivation to do anything. Like, Blue's biggest thing he wants to do right now is start a podcast. He went and spent like $1,600 on a MacBook. He spent like $100 and some on lights. He hasn't put out one episode. I said, it's because you're not valuing your time because you just have free money coming in. So you're just sitting there smoking your back out. That's it. That's why we don't need no universal income.
No, 100%. And, to your point, you feel like, maybe your support for capitalism is kind of a result because that's all you know. I also think that might be the problem of why people have disdain for capitalism and long for socialism. It's all they know, and they haven't put in the work or seen. And, one, these people are surrounded by like people. Birds of a feather flock together. And when no one around them, nor themselves, is seeing anybody climb the ladder or have success, they blame the system. And I think the more people, and it all comes with education. At college, I also studied philosophy, and I learned way more about capitalism and socialism than I ever thought I would. And the whole time I'm sitting there going, oh man, socialism's great. Everything's free. But also you learn that there has not been one successful country that has implemented socialism ever. And they say it's because it was never done right. Well, you could be Venezuela and fighting over a chicken bone, or you could be this quasi-republic, which is a capitalist society, with a lot of socialist policies trickled in it. I mean, there are so many socialist gems in this government that we take for granted and blame it for our problems.
And I'm also a firm believer that socialism creates communism every time. Like, I don't know if you read the book Animal Farm, but I read that book when I was really young. And I don't even think I knew what socialism really was then, but I knew that somebody has to lead somewhere, or somebody will be forced to be in the front.
It's 100% it. And it's unfortunate, but so today there were congressional hearings with the Attorney General Barr. They brought him in and they were questioning him. The only reason I bring that up is because a couple of the senators kept showing videos of what Venezuela looks like right now, which is just chaos. And
yes.
it is a dictator suppressing the people, and that's why they're rioting and burning. And she's like, this is exactly what's going on in our country. How do you explain our government isn't a dictatorship also? And it's like, because while that is going on in some sectors, like Portland is totally on fire right now. I get it. On top of that, I'm in a nice little city of Cleveland, and there's nothing going on. There's nothing. We went downtown for the Indians game, like I said. There were nothing but Indians fans. Sorry, we'll never wear Spiders gear. It's always going to be Indians fans. Sorry to break it to you. But then, it was beautiful. Everybody was hugging each other and enjoying baseball being back. And that's the beauty of this country is, yeah, sure, some people are losing their minds and burning themselves down, but there's other places that are thriving even during a pandemic like this.
Yeah, you can't really judge a whole country based off 2 or 3 cities. Like, one of my friends just came from, Minnesota, where the cop killing happened, and he was actually a little disappointed about it. He was supposed to give like this big speech in our town about Black Lives Matter, and he decided not to do the speech because he said he was angry about how black people handled that situation. They basically burnt down their whole community. He wasn't happy about it.
Wow.
I felt him on that.
So, is there any chance you could get that friend on your podcast?
It's funny. It's funny you bring that up because someone literally just texted me and asked me to bring him to the studio because he wants to do a podcast with him. Because today he wrote on Facebook. I'm gonna read it if you don't mind. I'm not saying it's something that's correct, but let me see. Here we go. I found it. He said, "I wonder if people who commit suicide get the attention they were looking for," and it has like 200 comments on it, and people aren't happy about it. So he wanted me to bring him on a podcast to talk about that. I always wanted to get him on a podcast though, because he's a very intelligent brother, but he doesn't really want to talk about a lot of stuff that he believes in, like socialism, like the suicide topic. And what people don't know about him with the suicide topic is he's been dealing with people committing suicide like his whole life. So they're all like, "Oh, you're insensitive. You never dealt with this situation before." And he's probably also been suicidal before also. So they don't want to hear that topic.
Man, see, but that's the toughest part is that it's a tough conversation to have, and most of the time it isn't wanted or welcomed. But the only way to alleviate a lot of those issues is forcing that conversation. But honestly, the one thing I would love to hear from him is what the initial speech was, and I'm sure it was powerful and definitely noteworthy, and how he would change it now, or if there's anything he would add to it in the wake of everything that has happened.
I told him that he shouldn't have gave up on the speech so fast because, you know, I always use situations as a learning and a teaching moment. So he literally could have just still gave the speech and gave his input on it. But I'm curious also what the original speech was. Because he changed his mind really quick when he seen that.
Wow. How heartbreaking. I'm going to get your opinion on, since we're kind of talking about it. I've really noticed, you know, there's so much virtue signaling going on, and I think it's a lot more out of fear than it is out of confidence and passion. And so I'm curious, what is your opinion on, you know, obviously that George Floyd video was atrocious. I haven't met a single person who disagrees with that. And this, I think it's social media, the media, this kind of machine, all of these players manipulating people's reactions. And I'm curious, what do you think? To me, I've seen, instead of us going after prosecutors who take too long to prosecute police officers and the police chiefs that, you know, harvest this environment and preserve this in a culture amongst their colleagues, instead of going after them, we go after our Facebook friends. I mean, it is unfortunate, but I've always been against putting myself in an echo chamber, but also I have at least more than half of my Instagram stories now are muted because I'm tight. I've done nothing except stand there and agree with every person around me, and I'm the one getting yelled at by, so people are attacking their neighbors, people are attacking their friends, quote unquote. So I want to get your opinion and your take on, do you feel as if any of this energy is getting misdirected and kind of taking us away from the main narrative we should be focusing on?
Honestly, when it first happened, I knew exactly what was going on. And I'm not saying I'm Miss Cleo or nothing, but I predicted we'll be exactly where we are right now. People are using these times right now and forgetting like the main issue. It's not a black versus white issue. It's a people versus blue issue. Like, we really need to get the police in line. That's all it's about. So for people to completely like create this narrative of like a race war, it seems like it's just insane to me. And that's why I didn't really speak on it when everything was first going on. And people kept asking me like, "Slim, why haven't you talked about it on your podcast?" It's because sometimes when I speak about things, it comes off like, you know, people like to bring politics and stuff all the time. It comes off like, "Oh, here's Slim being a black Republican again." You know what I'm saying? But it's like, it's not, I'm not even a black Republican. I'm not none of that. It's just, I'm just telling you what's going on. Like, we have to be logical about things. Like, what really made me angry is when people were burning down Atlanta. And I've been living in Georgia for probably like 20 years of my life, a little bit over 20 years of my life. And Atlanta is like one of the most historical black cities that you will ever find in America. So I had I was mind blown just watching people trying to burn down a city full of strong black people that literally like came from nothing and put everything they into a city and tried to start something. I didn't get it at all. And then I pretty much it's a lot of like black figures I disagree with often. Like Dick Gregory. What's the other guy name? I forgot the other guy. But it's a lot of them. And Killer Mike, I disagree with him often also. But when I seen him give that speech at the city hall, I almost bust down into tears. I was like, I agree with every word he's saying. Like, I understand black people are angry, but burning down your own home, where you gonna sleep at? I don't get it.
Right, and the fact that it's taken so much work and so much time to build to where the cities have gotten as it is, it's almost like tearing it down to ground zero. One question I got for you, though, Slim, is, okay, what is your opinion then on... So we've become so team-oriented that, speaking out of term against the Democrats makes you, now you're a black Republican, like you said. They've commandeered terms like liberalism. They're not liberal. Liberal is somebody who doesn't care what you're smoking or what you're smoking next door, as long as you're not affecting me on my property. And that's liberal. But that has been a term commandeered by a political party, and they've changed the term. And so they've relied so much on symbolic voting that they can guilt you out of your own ideologies or opinions on given topics because of your skin tone. Or because, my sister sees it all the time. She's a female. Well, you're going against women. You're a woman hater when you're voting. Not even if you're voting, but if you just reflect any glimmer of moderate opinion, not even Republican, if you aren't strictly left and you're moderate, that makes you Republican, that makes you the devil. And so what is your opinion on, and because again, this is something I don't get to experience, right? They look at me and they go, well, of course the white male feels the way he does. So I get kind of thrown in the box and deployed as it is. I'm curious, how does that struggle, I don't know, how do you deal with something so difficult and it's so strong? How do you deal with something like that?
Are you speaking on like the black Republican thing?
Just in general, like I guess socially, I mean I got to imagine your peers that lean hard left definitely have kind of like a prick in their side if you say anything like, yeah, maybe we should have our guns, or maybe we shouldn't have open borders. What stinks is right now, I never understood political parties. There's two of them. Never understood how my opinion on the environment has to dictate my opinion on gun rights, on abortion. It's like, I'm not binary, one or the other, and so we end up picking one issue that we feel the most strongly about, and that's the party we tend to lean towards, because the one thing that resonates to the top is the side that we kind of hold the truest to. So I'm curious, how is it for you? Do you find yourself in that situation a lot? Is it rare when you're speaking on and you come off maybe moderate, or you do come off conservative and you're being, either socially kind of ridiculed, or at least kind of that people give you shit for kind of leaning that way? How does that feel, or is it not as prevalent as I may think it is?
I actually just started like really vocalizing my opinions on politics when I started podcasting. Okay. And that's when I started getting all these crazy narratives of people calling me a black Republican and all this other stuff. But I really feel like I'm so centered, because it's like certain topics where I definitely would agree with the right, and certain topics I definitely would agree with the left. Like, I'm never just one-sided. And honestly, I'm gonna just be completely honest. I really don't care what people think about like my political views. You know what I'm saying? Like, I remember the governor race in Georgia. I remember telling everybody like Stacey Abrams is not winning this race. and they was like, you're so negative. Stop being negative. She's gonna win. I'm like, she's not gonna win because first off, y'all are only voting for her because she's black. Second off, she's talking about taking guns away. Whenever you start talking about taking guns away in the Bible Belt, it's over with. I said, I don't even really have nothing else to say because I'm gonna be honest, I got guns. Ain't nobody taking my guns away.
Right.
And I know now I sound like a redneck from Alabama, but it's just true. Like, you're not taking my guns. What you gonna do? You gonna go door to door and take all the guns? It's not happening. It's gonna be a war.
100%.
Try that.
That's too funny.
As far as like you being a liberal, I see why liberals get flack because I remember I had this real nice guy that stayed in my neighborhood. He was a young white guy, and his parents were liberals also. And I remember growing up, I would hear like the parents in the neighborhood talk about, yeah, they're so fake and they're always pandering for black people. And I was like, okay, so that's the narrative that people paint for liberals, and it's kind of unfair because it's not no disingenuous feeling. It's literally that those people just didn't care about skin color. You know what I'm saying?
Right. No, that's exactly it. Well, here's the unfortunate thing, and that's why I think there's been such a war on open conversation and discourse like this, because no matter how many times I find, there's been plenty of girlfriends in the past. I've definitely hooked up with more liberals than I have conservatives. Conservative girls are few and far between, and as a result, when you sit down and have a conversation with somebody who's on the other team or is considered the other side, and you actually get to flush out these topics, more often than not, you learn that you pretty much agree on everything, or at least can find a common ground and go, well, we agree to disagree, but I see your perspective. That's why I think there's such a war on open discourse and open ideas. So my dad, I'm going to work, and my dad goes, check this out. And I don't know if you saw 2 days ago, but there were some people with Nazi flags across their face and at a Walmart. Now, my grandmother hid from Nazis in Greece in a hollowed out tree. So I have no empathy for Nazis. I am no Nazi sympathizer. They're terrible. But also, the first thing that came to my mind was, good. But then I said, but F them. Those guys suck. That husband and wife are terrible humans, but they have the freedom to do that. I take my First Amendment class. I've said forever, yeah, we can shit on a bunch of people with their torches when they host a rally in the middle of North Carolina, but also, that's the beauty of America. They have their right to do it just as much as we've seen for the past 2 months. I would defend the rights of all these other protesters with the most contradicting message to that. We should all be allowed to say our message no matter what they are. And that the unfortunate thing is we're seeing with Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. My biggest battle right now, dude, is I know this YouTube algorithm has thrown me in a box and tossed me away. And it's because I'm just being candid on topics I'm supposed to either tiptoe around or bend a knee and bow to the king. And I'm sorry, I'd rather have a conversation and learn the person who's on the other team ends up coming from the same perspective at the end of the day. What are your thoughts on all this censorship and this kind of war against open discourse? Do you see it, or do you feel is that that may not be the case?
Yeah, I watched a lot of Joe Rogan, and I remember Joe Rogan speaking about this years ago about how it could also potentially cause a war trying to censor people. Platforms like Facebook trying to censor people. And when this whole Nick Cannon thing happened, like I was talking to Blue about on my last podcast, that's when I really got concerned because I was like, you can't censor somebody and try to cancel them because they're uneducated. Like his whole opinion about the Jews and stuff, I'm not saying I agree with it, but he's able to have his opinion. Like, what's the point of even having a First Amendment if you're going to get punished for exercising your First Amendment? It's like, okay, you have the freedom to say what you want, but people also have the freedom to do what they want after you say what you want. It's kind of like, so what's the point of me even talking? And then on top of that, like, I was so disgusted with people that I knew personally that was on social media, and they was trying to justify what Nick Cannon said by referencing Hitler. Like, they took a Hitler quote and It was like a Hitler quote. I kept seeing a Hitler quote and a Charles Manson quote.
Oh
And
my!
they was quoting them basically like Hitler was saying that black people are the real Hebrews, and Charles Manson was saying, I've seen the Charles Manson clip. I think he said something along the lines of, one day it's going to be a race war because white people think colored folks are dumb. But he said, when the war happens, I'm just going to go into hiding, and I'm going to come out, and I'm just going to dance with the colored folks. And I'm like, why are y'all using two of the craziest people in history to prove y'all crazy ass logic of black people being the original Hebrews? If that's what you believe, that's fine, but why are you using these two crazy maniacs to prove this?
But you know, the funniest part about that is, what did you just wrote that, you wrote off their entire thing as, look, you literally quoted crazy people. Obviously, your opinion is delusional. One, kind of like Animal Farm, there's a lot of importance in allowing people to flush out their craziness, because then other people get... if you suppress that message, kind of like, we all know about the pastor's daughter, right? Because she isn't allowed out, she's a bit of a hoe, right? So, the same kind of deal. If we don't let people kind of investigate stupid ideas look a little more enticing. Sometimes it's better to let these racists expose their racism to, one, now you know who's racist, but two, you can flush out the crazy. Imagine the beauty of diversity, this melting pot, us all being exposed to one another is, yeah, your dad can be racist, and you'll always come home to somebody that goes, oh, those Chinese. But then, when you go to school and you meet a couple Chinese kids, or you go to work, and that guy that's Chinese who speaks crisp English and is totally articulate ends up becoming your best friend, you start to learn that, Dad's a little crazy. And that's how you flush out delusional ideas, but also allow healthy, strong ideas to flourish, is by the First Amendment, this was the best class I had in law school. It was the best I did in law school. And the First Amendment is relied upon this theory of the marketplace of ideas. We want a free marketplace of ideas. Allow all ideas to flourish. And in the theory of the free marketplace of ideas, the best ideas will always resonate to the top, because they combat themselves in this free arena. And I think that's the best approach. When you look at somebody and say, you're not allowed to protest, that's only going to make them entrenched in their opinion even more. Or like Nick Cannon. You think this is going to change Nick Cannon's mind? No, what you really needed to do is probably bring Nick Cannon on Joe Rogan or something, that's where you're going to change someone's mind. I'm sorry, hate him or love him, Steven Crowder's got the best show idea there is. Come and sit down with me at a table on an opinion we disagree on and try to change my mind. We may leave with literally totally disagreeing, but let's sit down and and the amount of times people sit down with Steven Crowder because he's got some ridiculous, male privilege is a myth, and a lot of times they walk away going, well, I see what he's saying and I agree. So it's wild, man.
I'm gonna be honest about him. I watched pretty much all his stuff, and I pretty much agree with most of his opinions and beliefs. I think it was only like one or two of them I was like, oh, I can't go for that. I don't think it was a male privilege one. I think it was something else. I can't remember. But it was only like two of them. I was like, I don't know about this. Like, I kind of shocked my friends when he was doing the one about I think we should build a wall, change my mind. And all my friends was like, man, look at this racist asshole. And I was just sitting there quiet, and I was just listening. Because I had already had that thought in my mind. And I was like, at the end, I told them, I said, I agree with him. And they all just looked at me and was like, what? I said, man, I'm not saying we need to build no wall, but I completely agree with the ideal of the wall. I just do. Like, I got to be honest. If I have to be the black Republican because those are my beliefs, I'll be the black Republican. But I'm just saying, like, I just cracked that joke yesterday, too. It wasn't a tasteful joke. I ain't going to sit here and lie. But I was just like, man, it was about the Tory Lanez situation. him shooting Meg, and they was like, yeah, they trying to deport Tory Lanez or whatever. And I was just joking because obviously, like, I feel bad for the man. Like, I'm not saying it's okay to shoot a woman, but I feel bad for the man. I cracked a little joke and was like, hey, man, if you in America get wild, we got to send you back to Canada. That's normally how it goes. Like, if somebody comes, okay, if I go over to Germany right now and I'm over there getting wild, starting my own gang, lacing them with guns and all this stuff, and I get arrested for doing some gang activities, they definitely should deport me back to America. You know what I'm saying? I'm over here messing y'all country up.
Exactly. And that's, I don't know, okay, there's this perfect video. I'm going to have the link in the description. But if you go to YouTube, and Slim, you got to do this. I'll actually just message you the link. On YouTube, there's, if you just search marble experiment, immigration marble experiment. It's this TED Talk where this guy is using a marble to represent, I think, like 100, one marble is 1 million people. And he does this, it's just this analogy or metaphor for our immigration system. And he goes, we take in one marble a year in hopes of helping this global economy and the suffering across the world. And he drops it in this bowl while he has towers of marbles representing China, representing Africa, representing India, all these countries with expats that are trying to travel to America. You are never going to globalize the whole world and save everybody with immigration to America. The only thing you can do is make where they're at safer and better. That's if you want to open your borders because suffering is so bad for the people fighting for chicken bones in Venezuela, we need to make Venezuela better because, one, we don't have enough room, but the number of people suffering across the world is so overwhelming, and I think we need to actually physically see it to internalize how severe the problem is and how much of a joke it is thinking immigration is what's going to save it. It's only going to destroy us from the inside because we don't have enough space, nor, listen, when we want a $1,200 check going to a person once a month, you better start caring who's in here because we're going to run out of money. We're going to write that welfare check that is taking care of you and the free Medicare that's taking care of you is going to dry up because we had to give all those Venezuelans a free $1,100 just like you asked for. So it's this very delicate balance, and I don't think enough people can digest how big the problem really is.
Man, I actually seen that video, and it's funny because the whole thing with the wall, it's another video. It's a podcaster. His name is Queen and Flip, and he has a friend. I think his name is King Vine. His name is King Vine. He's a black Republican, like a real black Republican. Like he's a die-hard Donald Trump supporter. And he talks about the wall thing also. He also says some asshole shit, but he talks about the wall also. And the analogy he always uses talking about it as far as immigration goes is he goes, man, why you got doors on your house? You racist. Like, he real aggressive. And he a gangbanger from New York, tattoos everywhere. And he be walking up to people. He got his support Trump sign and stuff. And he be like, why you got doors on your restaurant? You racist. You get what he's saying, but it's like, he's just so aggressive with it. But it's true, though. Like, you put doors on your house because you don't want people to come in. I'm not saying the wall thing is the best idea because I don't want to pay for no wall. But the ideal of it makes sense. It's like you just said, we can't have 100 billion more people come over to a country that's already overpopulated. Then what are we going to do about resources?
Right. That's exactly it. And I think for me, when it came to the wall, it was... This was brought up in debates in 2015. I could tell you when I was in college and it was first brought to my attention, it was done. And I would truly be amazed if people would not admit they didn't have the same feeling. But as soon as they started, Trump's debating Hillary about a wall, I'm like, whoa. There is no wall? There's not even a fence. There's not even a line on the ground. It's just open? To me, that was mind-boggling, especially when, I'm sorry to break it to you guys, but the reason why Mexicans want to leave so bad is because the CIA and the American government has aided one of the worst governments in the world. If I lived in Mexico, I'd do everything in my power to get the hell out because it is a cartel, drug-ridden country. And yes, we hate the president's rhetoric on how he describes it, but the president is a criminal. The president of Mexico is a criminal. So I don't want people, again, so I get it. To me, it was dumbfounding that we didn't even have one. But also to your point, it's like it is a really ridiculous and unnecessary expense. Let me get your opinion on this then. I have said forever on the debate of the wall and on the debate of Mexico, Mexicans are extremely hard workers. I love their culture. I love their food. I have an open heart for anybody. This is sick American, conquer mentality, but with a country that is so terribly run with a literal cartel that we created, why don't we just go in there? And I know this is simply said, but take over Mexico and make them American citizens. And did you see what happened with South Korea? South Korea is the epicenter of the world economy. Why? Because China, Russia, and America, and the European Union built this country that was demolished after the Korean War with no economy, and we all worked together. And right now, where most of the global economy has been modernized, new frontiers shoot past everything that has been established. So South Korea, that's why we're so afraid of North Korea. It's like Osama bin Laden holding a girl innocent with a gun to her head. We're afraid of North Korea not because they're going to hurt us, but because they're going to hurt our pocketbook. They've got a gun to South Korea's head. So I'm saying, why can't Mexico be the next South Korea? We should take that on as an arm of America. Now, you all hardworking, beautiful human beings will now be paying into those same resources. Our economy, the economy that you want taking care of you with their welfare systems and everything else, just pay into that system. That's all I ask for, the social contract. If you ever read about a social contract, that's where my heart lies. Let's go make Mexican Americans, bring them in. We will have a whole new frontier to build an even stronger, badder economy. Badder isn't better. And then we can truly take care of these citizens. There will no longer be this divide of, well, they're not Americans or speak American. No. They are Americans. And open your heart as such. Fight for our army, pay into our social system, and we'll happily take care of you and welcome you with open arms. What are your opinion on that?
I never even really thought of that, but it makes a lot of sense, and it sounds like one of those things that's probably easier said than done.
Oh, 100%.
What we did do that is we definitely got to restructure their government because the cartel has ruined that system. When I seen that they made cocaine legal, I was like, hey, they on some crazy stuff. But even I've been said, I think recreational drug use should be legal. That's just my opinion. That's my take. But the fact that they made cocaine legal just because the cartel wanted it legal, I was like, whoa, they got some real life issues. Oh, and when they whose son was that they went to war in the streets with the police to free? What's his name?
Oh,
my mind is blank.
was it?
What's his name?
Oh, was it that was it the cartel guy that they broke out of jail too?
Yeah, they broke him out of jail. He ended up getting captured again, and then they tried to take his son into custody because one of the officers seen the son, and they went to war in the streets with tanks, with guns on the back of vehicles, and they was just shooting in the middle of the street, and the army gave up and just turned the son over back to the cartel. I was like, they have real issues in that country.
Right, and again, you're racist if you don't want those people just walking in and out like a swinging door, right? Like, sorry, guys.
And then, like they'll really call you racist if you start talking about statistically how the illegal immigrants, the crime rate with them. It's like, now you're super racist because you're like, oh, now you're saying all immigrants are criminals. It's like, nah, we're not saying that. We're saying that the cartel is very powerful, and we kind of like keep that away from America. But also, we're not being selfish because we want to work on that. That's why I love the idea that you just painted about how we should kind of go in there and try to take over and convert the Mexican people into American citizens. I love the idea.
I love that. I love hearing that, and that was a good take on it too. I mean, it is unfortunate. But we have to acknowledge, kind of like we acknowledge our past with slavery and what got us to where we're at today. We have to acknowledge how Mexico got to where they're at, right? They were a desert country, and as they were trying to build a democracy, we stepped in. But man, that CIA, they were making boko bucks from this illegal drug pin situation, so we kind of allowed it to flourish, and in turn kind of encouraged it quite a bit, which where they're at today, I'd make the argument it's kind of our fault, or at least part of our doing. So I want to get your opinion. So we're talking about censorship. We're talking about, these party lines, drawing the lines in the sand. I sent you a video earlier. I'm going to play it right now real quick. Hey, how's it going, folks? Sorry for the inconvenience. This was the part of the episode where we were supposed to show the viral video of the woman, the doctor, the physician in D.C. exclaiming for hydroxychloroquine, zinc, and one other drug I cannot remember for a cure, her words, not mine, cure for the COVID-19. I don't know if you're familiar with it. It went viral. Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, they've all been scrubbing it from the internet. It is really hard to find. Actually, I had the video prepped, sent it to Slim so he could see it, and that site that was an article about how you can't find the video didn't have the video anymore. So I had to do deeper digging for the video for this episode, and it keeps being pulled from the internet, from YouTube. So again, censorship wins. Unfortunately, I got to keep the video out so we can keep this episode up on YouTube. If you haven't seen the video, go ahead and try finding it on the internet. If not, go ahead and leave a comment or reach out to me, and I'll happily send it to you personally. But unfortunately, we had to clip the video from this episode because it was the only way to keep this on YouTube. So in light of that, please enjoy our conversation. We do really flush out kind of what was discussed during that video. It's really just a woman, a physician, exclaiming how she's cured over 350 patients, unanimously 100% success rate, no matter the demographic, whether it's diabetes or old age. She's had 100% success rate. So in light of that, please enjoy the rest of the episode. But it is funny, this episode, that this conversation leads into something Bill Gates was saying on how Twitter, Facebook, and the rest of these social media sites have a duty to pull and censor disinformation. The real question is, who is the authority in being the arbiter of disinformation and true information? It's funny, Twitter, Facebook, and these guys, nobody's pushing more disinformation than these sites, but somehow they're medical experts on a new disease that nobody knows what's up or what's down with. So very interesting. It's very unfortunate that something like this, something so important, has become politicized. But again, please enjoy the rest of the episode, and I apologize that we didn't have and don't have the ability to show you the clip itself. Hopefully one day, the Rethink Tank gets bigger and stronger enough to where we can have our own site, and I'll show you anything you want, within limits. So yeah, Slim, that video I sent you with the woman in front of DC, I recently, again, when the podcast first was going on during the pandemic, probably a month into the pandemic, there was this woman in Texas, this doctor, I'm going to have her name on the screen here, this doctor, she was just exclaiming with a megaphone in the middle of Houston, hydroxychloroquine and a Z-Pack works. I've had 100% success rate. For some reason, my voice is being suppressed. It works. The reason why hydroxychloroquine was ridiculed to begin with was because some moronic family, probably a Tiger King situation, because the wife was trying to divorce her, or the husband was trying to divorce her. She tried killing him on in multiple situations. There were multiple police reports, but the man apparently accidentally took koi pond cleaner, which was like, the name was similar to hydroxychloroquine. They thought it was what the president said everybody needed to take, It killed the husband, and now hydroxychloroquine is banned. It is ridiculed. It is no longer considered an actual thing worth investigating in the medical field. What's interesting is that video we just played was this woman exclaiming, this was just this week, yesterday, it went viral all over Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. It was being shared millions of times. I even shared it on the Rethink Tank podcast Twitter page, and it was going viral. Everybody's saying, so why is this being suppressed? That was actually what I said on the tweet. Why is this being suppressed? Why are we not hearing this woman's voice or voices similar more often to at least investigate? Ironically, the next day, today, not only is this video impossible to be found, it is totally wiped clean from the internet. Can't find it on YouTube or anything. I luckily found it on a website doing an article on the video being taken off the internet. Hate him or love him, not saying I support his speech at all, but Donald Trump Jr. shared the video and as a result was banned from Twitter. So Jack Dorsey, the CEO, banned Donald Trump Jr. for sharing a video of a woman who was in front of the Capitol building talking about her 500 people she has had 100% success rate, whether they had diabetes, they were old, she's had 100% success rate. Now, why are these social media sites being the arbiters of truth and medicine and kind of, again, censoring discourse that we've been talking about? What is your opinion on, do you feel as if, what if this is, this could be bad medicine and it is sharing bad medicine? Do you see that there's any value in allowing even the possibility of it to flourish and get out there, exist?
I think it goes back to what you were saying as far as censorship goes. And these social media platforms are basically private businesses. And they control the speech that they want on their platforms. And it's always weird as hell what they pick and choose that they want to ban and what they don't want to ban. Because you can be a head dragon of the KKK and you can write all this hateful speech on there and it will be on there for 100 years. But when you get on there talking about some medicine, it's like, oh, no, we have to ban that. That's going to cause more issues for people to try to take this pond medicine and kill themselves. It's like, why do you pick and choose what you want to ban from things? I can't trust these social media platforms. I'm going to be honest. Like, I expect them to move the exact way that they move because, this is America. It's all about a dollar with people. Like, just like how we're seeing in the news that, like, hey, they have cured somebody of HIV. And it's like, so where's the medicine?
Yeah, exactly. Where's the medicine? Well, dude, I'm going to be honest with you, dude. One of the weirdest human interactions we ever had, we were at Disneyland. I think that's the one in Florida. Whichever the one's in Florida. And we're at the Tower of Terror, and there's this old gentleman with his two grandkids in front of us. And it's me and my mom and my sister. And the guy turns around, and he starts striking up a conversation with us and everything. And he starts professing, you could tell he had money just by the way he was dressed and stuff. And he's like, I own an island off of the coast of Miami. It is in international waters, and rich people come to my island to get cured of cancer. I've worked with every sports team. I've worked with the biggest, most powerful politicians. I have this, and again, I have no realm to believe that this is real. I don't know this guy, but it's also one of those situations where it's like, it seems like it'd be more likely that this dude's telling the truth than he is delusional, but then why would you, maybe he had a change of heart of guilt and that's why he's exclaiming it. He feels guilty, he wants to get it out there, but you gotta believe whether this guy's delusional or not. Dude, you look at Charlie Sheen, the guy is a tiger blood machine humping everything that moves. He gets AIDS, and somehow he's the first and only case to be cured of AIDS. That's nuts. I got to assume these islands, whether that guy's telling the truth or not, these islands got to exist. But no one in 2015, my dad thought I needed to be in a straitjacket when I said there was a pedophile island, and now we've come to learn that that's common nomenclature. So I'm curious. I gotta assume we're just not rich enough to have those cures, brother.
Yeah, that's what I think also. And it's funny you talk about that pedophile island. I tried to watch that documentary. I watched the first episode, and I couldn't sleep the whole night. That shit disgusted the hell out of me.
Dude, it's terrible. And so back to what we were talking about with people, social justice warriors going off after their Facebook friends and their neighbors. The most disgusting thing with that documentary was, you probably didn't get far enough in, but they had Jeffrey Epstein dead to rights, man. They had him dead to rights. They had like 6 girls, and this defense attorney was going to take them down, and they bring everybody into court. Court is about to be brought into session. The judge comes in. The prosecutor, Alexander Acosta, who was appointed as Attorney General by Trump, gets marched in. So again, this is the unfeathered prosecutorial discretion prosecutors have to make king-like decisions. He brings Epstein up to the front of the courtroom. There's a bunch of whispering. Epstein signs a couple things. He gets shuffled out, and he was let free. He signed a deal with Alexander Acosta for not only immunity for himself, but this is the first and only time in law that any co-conspirators have immunity as well. That means Ghislaine, that means any person that is considered a co-conspirator. So even all the girls down the tree that were bringing other girls in, they all have immunity because of this prosecutorial discretion Alexander Acosta had in a deal they made with a guy they had dead to rights. So the question is, that's what compels me, man. Like you said, the first episode gave you nightmares, made you sick to your stomach, you had to turn it off. I want to go flood the streets and burn down buildings because kids are being raped, and we are watching prosecutors get away with just letting them do it. And not only are they not held accountable, they're being appointed as Attorney General. I mean, granted, Trump ended up dropping him after a month because of the ridicule, but it's like, why is this guy still having jobs when we know, just like the prosecutor with the George Floyd situation, these people should never get a job again. But again, we're saying, oh, but my neighbor tweeted this 10 years ago. He can't host the Emmys. Like, what?
Yeah, man, I got so much to say about that, but I'm gonna try to keep it limited. First off, the cancellation of the Emmy situation. 30,000 years ago.
Can you say that again? You glitched out just right when you said the Emmy situation.
I said the whole Emmy situation with them trying to cancel Kevin Hart because of that tweet, that was wild to me. I was like, dog, he didn't even say nothing. He said, if my son trying to play with a dollhouse, I'm gonna throw it at him. Bruh, that's not even like, what? What is that? But as far as like the deals and stuff, this is just me personally. I don't think murderers or child molesters should ever get deals. Like, you should try to prosecute everybody, anybody that's involved. And something that didn't sit right with me also when I watched that one episode was all the girls he was recruiting, and they was talking about prosecuting them. And I was like, this is an interesting situation because it's like you kind of look at them like victims, but at the same time, it's like you also look at them as pimps.
100%.
So it's like, what do you do? And I'm asking you that. What do you do? Do you prosecute those girls?
Well, the way I would approach that is we acknowledge that the brain development of children is different than that of adults, and that's why we've put in such strong effort and work into creating another criminal justice system for juveniles. We recognize that the brain is totally different. So, I would say they 100% need to be prosecuted. At 16 years old, if you knew that that man that slept with you when you gave him a massage was definitely going to be doing it to the next kid, you are perpetrating, you're a co-conspirator. Again, that's why it's so asinine that these co-conspirators also had immunity. These people also are criminals. And again, the sad part is, and this is kind of the conspiracy side of it all, but when we know Bill Clinton has 28 trips to that island, and Prince Andrew has been found at that island, the Queen knighted Jimmy Savile, one of the biggest known pedophiles in the world. When we know all these big pedophiles and strong politicians are involved, we also know their involvement was really coalesced by them. The way Epstein would work was he'd get these people in compromising situations and then use that as a way to blackmail them to further do his bidding, right? I got to imagine he had nothing on Ghislaine. Ghislaine just loved being a part of it. You know, she loved being the queen next to him. But a lot of these girls, I mean, notice that there's a type they look for, right? They aren't coming to suburbia and getting a little white girl in a beautiful world of, going. No, they find a girl who lives in a van, who's getting her ass beat by her parents, who are on meth. She's done drugs at 16. She's totally broken, has no family structure. Yeah, that's the girl we're going after, and we're going to entice her with money. First, it's like the gingerbread house. First, we lead them in with the money. Once they know they got you, then they make you stay by, they get you to sleep with one of them. Now you're guilty. You feel like you're a part of this thing. By the time they got you bringing one girl in, they've got you. You've done an illegal act. You have been, like you said, this pimp type situation. You are now legally compromised. And to save yourself, you only go deeper down the hole. And again, these girls are 16. That's why there's a different legal system. But, so Slim, I just think they get them in these compromising situations, and then they use that to further lead them down the hole deeper. And that's why we recognize children need a different justice system, because they're easy prey. These kids are very vulnerable, and that's why we would look at Epstein as the adult in the situation to hold accountable. You are the one that manipulated children. That's why you can't consent to sex until you're 18. That's why a bunch of creepy men are waiting at the gates of age 18, because we know that even at 18 we would look at you like, you sicko, because these kids, they're vulnerable. It's easy to manipulate these soft and malleable minds. And so to answer your question, I would approach it like, yes, obviously you need to be prosecuted, because the next girl who's a victim, who maybe might bring in another girl, well, she was only brought in because of the first girl. So we got to recognize that she was only brought in because of a mitigating factor. But we also got to recognize that this isn't behavior that can go totally unpunished. Or, again, the hope of the justice system is rehabilitation, right? So I'm not saying, I just want retribution, I want punishment. Hopefully they learn from this and can come back as functioning members of society, but also we got to recognize the danger in not holding these girls accountable, because we know they were in desperate situations. I mean, what they did was quite severe, but it was nowhere near as severe as a 50-year-old man sleeping with and pimping out little girls.
Yeah, that's disgusting.
Isn't it wild? People allude to it like, oh, maybe they love it because it's a power thing. They like doing what people can't. But the weirdest part about pedophilia is the kids that normally get sexualized become pedophiles. It's like the most...
So it's an endless cycle.
It is. It's an endless cycle. It's very bizarre, man. And so the saddest part is, for how much the news yells at you to wear a mask and, we're hearing about people getting sick in Italy, and we never hear about China and how they created this virus. But isn't it weird how much has gone down with pedophilia since the coronavirus alone, and we never hear about it on the news, right? Like the Wayfair stuff, never reported once on the news. Ghislaine, I want to see her mugshot. I want to see Ghislaine Maxwell's arraignment. You know, the fact that she's not going to have a hearing for another, year. That's ridiculous. And it should be on public television. Ugh. We're being screwed.
It's being said that they're moving her around also because, she fears for her life. And it's it sounds like y'all are going to kill her while everybody's looking.
Yeah. But I got to ask you, Slim, what's your thoughts? I've always keep thinking about it. If you are, let's say there's this cabal, Illuminati group. If you kill her like you did Epstein, you are 100%, 1,000% confirming your existence and the length of your power. So the question is, do you not kill her because you know what it confirms in the minds of the public, or do you do? I mean, I don't know. What are your thoughts?
So I'm not into conspiracy theories at all, but lately it's been a lot of stuff happening. I've been like, I don't know, man. I might have to rethink this a little bit. So if they kill her, I might have to go get me a 10-fold do-rag. Something's going on here. Somebody did this. For real. I would have to.
That was the perfect response. All right, Slim, last question I got for you, and then we can wrap it up here. Final thoughts on this, okay? So Bill Gates has a comment on Elon Musk's controversial coronavirus comments, okay? So Musk has courted controversy ever since the coronavirus first broke in America. He had suggested that deaths have been overcounted and lockdowns were unnecessary. He also called for California's approach to be combating coronaviruses as fascist, and he even drew a couple F-bombs from politicians from the backlash. So I'm curious, Slim, Bill Gates' response was stick with electronic cars and rockets.
Well, definitely when you let people communicate, you have to deal with the fact that certain incorrect things that are very titillating can spread very rapidly compared to the truth. And we've always seen that with vaccines. Any negative thing gets out to people. And the facts about it's safe, it doesn't cause autism, that travels very slowly by comparison. And social media can make that even worse. And so the degree to which these media companies can see what's being said on their platform and take things that are absolutely wrong and get rid of those things or slow those things down, that's very tough, because as you move over into political speech or a valid discussion about the safety issues, how you draw that line, do you have that visibility? These are complex issues. And, it has been a spreader of lots of negative things. And, how do you strike a balance there?
So I'm curious, what are your thoughts? One, I think it's hilarious that a guy who can't stop a computer virus to save his life is out here telling Elon Musk to stick with electronic cars and rockets as if he's a doctor. But aside from all of that, what are your thoughts on kind of Bill Gates exclaiming how these social media platforms have not only the right, but a duty to censor misinformation?
So it's two things. First thing, I seen a hilarious meme before. It was a guy jumping out of an airplane butt naked with no parachute, and it said, "Man jumps out of an airplane butt naked, dies of coronavirus." There's some truth to that, because if everybody is at the hospitals marking up, because I don't know if you've seen that article that they proved that like 100 people that they had marked dying of coronavirus, it wasn't true.
Yes.
And I was like, if those people are doing it, it may be people doing it all over the world also. And second thing, I have a theory. I think people that are that intelligent with 140 level IQs, they are socially awkward. I don't know if you've seen Elon Musk's podcast with Joe Rogan.
Yeah.
I watched both of them. It's hard to watch. Like, that man is so intelligent that he doesn't relate to none of us at all. He doesn't understand that, like, he's just on a different level. Like, so I had to learn this at a young age, because I'm not gonna sit here and act like I'm the smartest cookie in the jar, but you know, I grew up with a little bit higher level of intelligence than most of my friends, but I also was the stupid jock. I was real good at basketball. You know what I'm saying? So I was in these talented and gifted classes, but I also was the stupid jock. So I would get around my friends playing basketball, and I would have to dumb myself down, like, you know, so they could understand and relate to the things that I was into, the things I was talking about. Elon Musk and Bill Gates, they both are missing that factor.
That's true.
Back and forth, it's like y'all are one and another. Y'all should not be going back about this. Y'all communication is off.
That's a really strong point. I like that, because I do agree. So for me, very relatable. On the back of my Letterman's jacket was football and wrestling, but also debate, right? So I loved doing debate, but I also recognized that those people did not know how to talk to my football friends if their life depended on it. And so I do want to touch on the one point you made. You know, I don't know if you realize this, but the government is offering huge financial incentives for treating coronavirus. So a lot of these hospitals are going out of business because they've been closing their doors to everything but corona, and then there's nobody with corona to treat. So these hospitals, which are private companies, are going out of business, and a way to save themselves is the government is giving government assistance for patients that are being treated of coronavirus, or hospitals that are treating coronavirus. So hospitals are now incentivized to have corona patients. And I don't know if you know this as well, but you have COVID viruses we have a gut biome full of bacteria that digest our food. There are COVID viruses in there. We are afraid of COVID-19, but we have COVID in us. And so, kind of like you were saying about how, you know, your friend's mom who works at a hospital, we were talking about how there's this conspiracy theory that maybe all black men have it. I personally think we all have it, and unless we have a test that is extremely specific to COVID-19, I think it's all coming up positive we all got COVID, because we have different strains of COVID in our system as it is, and if it's a very general, you know, dumbed down test, it may just be testing, do you have COVID, and it would unanimously come up yes, and then there's an incentive for it because there's financial there's a financial incentive to have those patients.
Yeah, as far as the testing goes, I'm still confused about the antibodies things also, because I'm with you on that. Like, then obviously we'll all have the antibodies.
Exactly. And again, the weirdest part is the amount. Once the coronavirus came in and was strong all the way through March, right? The amount of people I talked to that were like, I think I had it in January. Every person I spoke to that thinks they had it in January or February, and it broke the world when it was politicized across the globe in March. So, I mean, what's really weird is I had one of the worst flus I've ever had for a week when we were on vacation in Florida in January. It was the end of December, and it was like the first week of January, and I go to the emergency room because I couldn't breathe, and I was... You know what they gave me? A Z-Pack and an inhaler, and it was gone in a week. So, you know, they're saying a chloroquine and a Z-Pack is the cure-all, so I would be amazed. Again, I'm not a fan of getting a rod shoved all the way up to my brain or giving my blood, but I'd love to know, because I gotta believe, I think myself and a lot of people have probably already had it.
Yeah, I believe so also, and like I said earlier, it's getting to the point where it's like, man, maybe I just need to go ahead and catch it so I can get over it now.
I mean, wouldn't that be beautiful? Here's the saddest part is because of the way the media has approached America's response to COVID, because, it's been so politicized and they're the mouthpiece for the Democrats, now every country watching us has completely closed its borders to us. Our passport has been shut down and you can't really go anywhere right now. And the scary part about that is, ironically, right around January, December, Bill Gates got his patent approved for a tattoo. It's a homing device chip that isn't a chip like we know that goes in your body. It's like a tattoo. It's ink, and it can be injected with a vaccine. So again, I'm not going to be some conspiracy theorist saying, that thing you ironically just patented is going to be in the vaccine. But again, I'm not one of those people that have sided with parents that say vaccines give your kid autism. Never agreed with that. But I also think the beauty of America is having the freedom to make those decisions no matter how dumb they are. Because right now, I don't want to have the ultimatum of, you want to use this passport? Well, the only way Americans are allowed to use their passport in another country is if you have the vaccine. That's pretty petrifying, and that seems to be the road we're going down.
I'm gonna be honest with you, man. I think it's a couple events I'm waiting to happen, and if those events happen, I'm about to become a conspiracy theorist. I always said I would never be a conspiracy theorist, but it's a couple events, and it's funny because I was talking to Blue last night, and Blue told me a story about how he knows aliens are real because he's seen them before. He said he was at Barnes & Noble, and he seen a guy that was my exact height, my skin color, but he had reptile skin, and he chased him around the corner, and the guy disappeared like Men in Black. Well, the funny thing about him telling me that story, I asked him what he did before he went to Barnes & Noble, and he said, nothing, I just smoked a gram of weed. What kind of weed, though? He said, some green crack. I said, okay. So I'm not going to be that kind of conspiracy theorist, but I'm going to be a conspiracy theorist if these couple events that I'm waiting on to happens. Like if they just randomly come up with this cure for the coronavirus, and then old girl gets killed in prison, I'm all in. I'm all in.
No, and see, that's the saddest part is everywhere they've had the opportunity to snuff out a conspiracy theorist, it seems like this conspiracies only get more momentum. Like, to your point, why can't I? That's what sparked my comment was, why can't I? I understand the term herd immunity just doesn't sit comfortably with people, and it doesn't sit comfortably with me either. But also, what's wrong with us just? Guys, I'm okay with catching the disease, this virus. I actually want to catch it so I can go back to going to concerts. Why don't I have that freedom? And you're allowed to have the freedom to hide in your house. That should be the beauty of America is, I'm not going to tell you to wear a mask or not wear a mask unless you're on my property or in my business. But also, if you want to wear a mask, do it. And I'm not going to ridicule you. But also, if I want to go to a concert or a baseball game, don't stop me.
Yeah, I agree. It should definitely be a choice.
It's gotten weird, man. Regardless, the beauty is being able to link up with somebody all the way in Virginia or Georgia and have a deep conversation about all this nonsense, because hopefully that's the way we get to flush it out.
Exactly.
Slim, I really appreciate you doing this and giving the virtual podcast a try. I'd love to get you on again. I had a blast. I hope you did too.
I most definitely did. Anytime.
Listen, now that we've got it all worked out, I'm for sure going to be hitting you up. Guys, again, here's the Instagram. Go find him on YouTube. Sit Downs with Slim. Make sure you catch it. It's a real fun podcast. If you're new to my podcast, you followed Slim in, thanks for joining us. Check us all out. Find us on Twitter. Like us on Facebook. And we'll catch you next time, guys. Peace. Thanks, Slim.